Okay, today we're going to take a piece of watercolor paper. We're going to pick out our leaf template with some graphite paper, tape it down to the paper, and we're going to trace over that leaf with medium pressure. This is going to make the outline of the leaf transfer to your watercolor paper because of the graphite paper. And voila, we take it off and we have a nice pencil line of the leaf. And your next step is to take a Sharpie and gently, slowly go over that outline with the Sharpie so we have a nice clean line. Because we're going to be using water, we need to use Sharpie so it doesn't bleed. And we are ready to go. After you've traced your leaf with Sharpie, you're going to get your water and your tissue paper squares. You're going to wet one section of the paper at a time. If you wet the whole thing, it'll dry before you get to it. So I decided to organize my tissue paper in warm and cool colors. Inside my leaf, I did warm colors, and outside of my leaf, I did cool colors. Remember, warm colors are yellows, oranges, and reds. Cool colors are blues, greens, and purples. You do not have to do this. I just thought it might look pretty. My colors ended up bleeding a little bit together anyway. The paper has to be wet so the tissue paper can stick. And you have to add a little bit of water on top of the tissue paper to make sure it's sticking to the paper. Do not take the tissue paper off. We're going to let it dry overnight there. Next, I move on to my background. I'm going to wet the paper in a section, and I'm just going to start laying my cool colors down. So I laid my blues, greens, and purples. I'm laying them on in one layer. You don't want clumps of tissue paper. That's when you start getting blacks and browns because the colors mix together. One piece of tissue paper at a time, overlapping them, trying to get most of the white spaces on the paper covered. So you need water on the paper for the tissue paper to stick, and you need to dab a little bit more water on top of the tissue paper to make sure it's a little wet. We don't want tons and tons of water because then the colors start to bleed a lot, but you do need a good amount of water to make sure it sticks. Now this tissue paper color is going to bleed into the paper. So when it dries and we take off this tissue paper, you're going to have a beautiful background to your leaf. So again, water, tissue paper, laying down one piece at a time, a little dab of water on top to make sure they're wet, stuck down, make sure all the white spaces are filled. And then we are ready to put it on the rack and let it dry for the next day.